All right, apprentices, grab those code books. Today, we are diving into a RedSeal Boot Camp Explainer on CEC 2024 Section 12. We're going to translate the rules for cable bus systems into plain, everyday English so you can absolutely crush your exam. Look, cable bus is one of those heavy-duty, high-amperage systems you're mostly going to see on commercial and industrial sites. Because it carries so much power, the code treats it with serious respect. So I'm going to walk you through exactly what you need to know, point out the traps that examiners love to set, and give you the memory tricks that will save your skin on test day. Let's get right into it.
Here's our job walk agenda for the lesson. 1. Navigating code rules. 2. Classes and clearances. 3. Penetrating walls and floors. 4. Connections and safe bonding. 5. A quick RedSeal practice quiz. And finally, 6. The exam cheat sheet.
Starting off with Section 1, Navigating Cable Bus Code Rules. What exactly is a complete system?
Let's flip open to Section 12. Quick field tip here, if you ever freeze up on the exam, remember, you can always check the index under Cable Bus to jump straight to the 122200 block. Right out of the gate, Rules 122250 and 122254 tell us that a cable bus isn't just some standard tray you lazily throw cables into. Nope, it must be installed as a complete manufacturer design system. You absolutely cannot cobble this thing together with spare parts rattling around in the back of the work van. The manufacturer specifies the exact fittings to make sure conductors have adequate support and you aren't violating that critical bending radius. The CEC strictly enforces that you follow the manufacturer's exact assembly design, so don't try to get creative here.
Moving on to Section 2, Cable Bus Classes and Clearances. Knowing your ABCs and spacing. Let's look at Rule 122252. This breaks cable bus down into two main classes, Class A and Class B. I've got a super simple memory trick for your exam. Class A is for anyone, meaning it can be installed in areas accessible to the general public. Class B, that's for behind closed doors. It means it can only be installed where it is completely inaccessible to the public and serviced strictly by qualified persons, basically people like you, the electrician. So if you see the phrase public access in a test question, immediately lock in Class A. Go ahead and screenshot this table for your RedSeal study notes, because inspectors and exam writers absolutely love testing you on these exact clearances from Rule 12-2254. Let's break it down. Vertically between tiers, you need 150 millimeters of clearance. But watch out, if you're dealing with massive cables, 50 millimeters or larger, you got to bump that up to 300. From the top to the ceiling, generally it's 300 millimeters. Now pay really close attention to horizontal clearance. If the cable bus is 1 meter wide or less, you only need 600 millimeters of clearance on one side. But if it's wider than 1 meter, you need 600 millimeters on each side. Make sense, right? You actually need to be able to reach in from both sides to service it.
Now here is a standalone number you need to burn into your brain right now, 3.7 meters. Watch out for this major exam trap from Subrule 7. A cable bus must be securely supported at intervals not exceeding 3.7 meters. There is a tiny exception in Subrule 8. You can go longer, but only if the structure is specifically engineered and designed for that longer span. Unless an exam question explicitly mentions an engineered design, 3.7 meters is your absolute maximum. Don't fall for the trick.
All right, Section 3, Penetrating Walls and Floors. Getting through obstacles safely.
Let's imagine you're on site and your run is passing through a wet floor, say in a food processing plant where heavy washdowns happen every single day. Rule 122254 Subrule 13 wants to see these exact chronological steps. First, you must build a curb around the opening or use suitable means to stop water from just pouring down the hole. Second, the cable bus must be totally enclosed where it passes through the floor. And third, you must extend that total enclosure for 2 full meters above the floor. Why 2 meters? To provide mechanical protection so a rogue forklift driver doesn't smash into your high-amperage cables. Believe me, nobody wants to explain to the site super why a $10,000 cable bus got flooded or crushed. This is a massive failure point on real-world inspections, so get it right.
Section 4, Connections and Safe Bonding. Keeping the whole thing grounded.
Rule 122258 makes bonding pretty straightforward. If your metal GusBus supports are bolted directly to the grounded structural metal frame of the building, well, the code considers it adequately bonded right there. It's a nice, clean install. But if you can't bolt directly to the building's structural steel, you must adequately bond the metal system at maximum 15-meter intervals. Alternatively, if the manufacturer has specifically marked the enclosure for use as a bonding conductor, you can just bond it at both ends. And remember your basics. Anytime you transition to another wiring method, those connections have to be smooth. Absolutely no sharp edges causing mechanical damage or abrasion to your conductors.
Time to see what you've learned. Section 5, RedSeal Practice Quiz. Let's test your field knowledge.
Here are our first 3 practice questions. Question 1, what's the maximum standard support interval? Boom, you know this, 3.7 meters. Question 2, what is the horizontal clearance required for a 1.2 meter wide cable bus? Notice how this question tries to trick you with the width. Since 1.2 meters is over that crucial 1 meter threshold, you need 600 millimeters of clearance on both sides, not just one side. And question 3 asks for the vertical clearance from the top of the cable bus to a ceiling. That's going to be 300 millimeters, assuming it's a standard run without short length obstructions.
Let's look at the next 2. Question 4. What is the required bonding interval if you aren't attached to structural steel and the enclosure isn't explicitly marked as a bonding conductor? The answer is a maximum of 15 meters. And question 5. What is the minimum height for a mechanical enclosure when passing through a wet floor? For question 5, always remember that 2-meter mechanical protection rule when popping up through floors. It is an absolute guarantee you will see a variation of this on your exam.
Finally, Section 6, the exam cheat sheet, our final review.
All right, here are the absolute most important numbers from Rules 12.22.50 to 12.22.58, compiled into one quick list for your study flashcards. Ready? Class A is for anyone. Class B is for behind closed doors. Your max standard support spacing is 3.7 meters. Your general ceiling clearance is 300 mil. If your bus is fatter than 1 meter, you got to give it 600 mil of breathing room on both sides. Protect those floor penetrations 2 meters up, and bond the whole thing every 15 meters if you aren't tied directly to the building steel.
Let's lock this in before we wrap up. Today's RedSeal takeaway. Number 1, 3.7 meters is the magic number for maximum support spacing. Number 2, clearances shift based on cable bus width. Always watch out for that 1 meter rule on the exam. And number 3, floor penetrations always require 2 meters of mechanical protection above. Before you pack up your tools today, ask yourself this. If you miscalculate a bending radius on site and have to rip it all out, are you really ready to pull all that heavy copper again? Didn't think so. Knowing the code saves you time, it saves the contractor money, and most importantly, it saves your back. Thanks for studying with me. If you found this lesson helpful, please like, subscribe, and comment with the next CEC topic you'd like to learn. Keep studying, stay safe, and good luck on your RedSeal journey.